The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive dome carved from living crystal. Thousands of seats rose in circular rows, each one designed for a different species. Some were filled with water for the aquatic races. Others glowed with heat for those who lived on volcanic worlds. A few were nothing more than magnetic fields holding together beings made of pure energy. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood at the entrance and took a deep breath. She was a tall woman with gray streaks in her dark hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. Behind her stood her aide, a young man named Peter, who carried a small data pad and looked like he might be sick at any moment. "Are you ready for this?" Peter asked quietly. Lisa shook her head. "No one is ever ready for something like this, but ready or not, it has to be done." She walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence that fell over the chamber. Every eye, every sensor, every form of perception that the 17 spacefaring species possessed turned toward her. Humanity had been part of this council for 40 years, but they had never commanded this kind of attention before. High Arbiter watched from his elevated seat at the center of the chamber. He was ancient even by the standards of his long-lived species, with 4 eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. His body was covered in thick gray scales, and his hands ended in claws that could crush stone. Yet for all his physical power, he had always preferred diplomacy. War was something the Council had left behind long ago. "The chair recognizes Ambassador Lisa Morgan of the United Earth Government," he announced, his deep voice carrying easily through the acoustics of the chamber. Lisa reached the central podium and placed her hands flat on its surface. She could feel the slight vibration of the translation systems working to convert her words into hundreds of different languages and sensory formats. "Honored delegates," she began, "I come before you today with a heavy heart and a clear purpose. For the past 18 months, the United Earth Government has engaged in diplomatic negotiations with the collective regarding the colony worlds of the Epsilon Reach." A murmur passed through the chamber. The Epsilon Reach dispute had been discussed in council sessions before, but it had always seemed like a minor matter. They claimed the systems by right of ancient survey. Humanity claimed them by right of actual settlement. Such disputes were common and usually resolved through arbitration. "We have offered compromise," Lisa continued. "We proposed shared governance, resource division, rotating administration, and a dozen other solutions. Every offer was rejected. We requested formal arbitration through the Council. They refused to participate. We asked for mediation by neutral parties. They walked away from the table." She paused and looked around the chamber. In the section, Supreme Commander sat with his arms crossed over his broad chest. His species resembled Earth's ancient dinosaurs in some ways, with powerful bodies, small arms, and minds that valued strength above all else. He was smiling, if the expression on his scaled face could be called that. "3 days ago," Lisa said, her voice growing harder, "warships entered the Epsilon 7 system. They demanded the immediate evacuation of all human colonists. When our people asked for time to organize the departure, they opened fire on civilian transports. 437 men, women, and children died in the attack." The chamber exploded with noise. Species that communicated through sound shouted in outrage or disbelief. Those who used light signals flashed rapidly. The telepathic races projected waves of emotion that made Lisa's head ache. High Arbiter raised one massive hand, and silence returned. "These are serious accusations, Ambassador. Does the delegation wish to respond?" Stood slowly, his movements carrying the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "The humans were warned repeatedly to leave our territory. They chose to ignore those warnings. The deaths are regrettable but entirely their own fault. We will not apologize for defending what is rightfully ours." "The systems were surveyed by probes 3,000 years ago," Lisa replied. "No colony was ever established. No claim was ever registered with the Council. Our people have lived there for 20 years. They built homes, raised families, and created communities, and you murdered them for it. We enforced our rights. You killed children. The two of them stared at each other across the chamber. The other delegates watched in uncomfortable silence. This kind of direct confrontation was rare in council proceedings. Disputes were supposed to be handled through proper channels, with formal language and careful procedure. Lisa turned back to face the full assembly. The United Earth government has exhausted every peaceful option available to us. We have begged, negotiated, compromised, and pleaded. We have followed every rule this council has established, and our reward has been the slaughter of innocent people. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. With a press of her thumb, a holographic document appeared above the podium, displaying text in the formal script of council proceedings. Therefore, in accordance with Article 7 of the Galactic Charter, which permits member species to defend themselves when all diplomatic solutions have failed, the United Earth government formally declares a state of war against the collective. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The words hung in the air like something physical, something that could be touched and felt. Then chaos erupted. Delegate of the Crystalline Accord was on her feet, her silicon body ringing with distress. This cannot be permitted. War has not been declared in this council for over 2,000 years. The consequences would be catastrophic. The humans have lost their minds, clicked Ambassador Al of the Hive Consortium. His body trembled with agitation. They are infants compared to us. They have been spacefaring for barely a century. Do they not understand what the will do to them? From the section, a delegate whose name Lisa could not pronounce called out, "This is a bluff. They are trying to pressure thee into negotiations. No species would be foolish enough to actually wage war in this age." But Lisa remained calm at the podium. She did not argue. She did not defend. She simply stood there and let them exhaust themselves. High Arbiter finally restored order with 3 sharp strikes of his ceremonial staff against the floor. "Ambassador Morgan, you must understand the gravity of what you have announced. War is not merely a political tool. It is destruction. It is death on a scale that your young species may not fully comprehend." Lisa met his four-eyed gaze without flinching. "With respect, High Arbiter, humanity understands war better than any species in this chamber. We have been practicing it against each other since before we discovered fire. We know exactly what we are doing." She gathered her documents and stepped away from the podium. "The declaration has been made. The choice now belongs to the. They can withdraw from the Epsilon Reach, pay reparations for the lives they have taken, and submit to council arbitration. Or they can learn what happens when humanity goes to war." As she walked out of the chamber, Peter hurrying behind her, Supreme Commander laughed. It was a harsh sound, full of contempt. "Let them come," he said to his aides. "It will be over in days." He could not have been more wrong. High Arbiter found Lisa Morgan in one of the council station's observation decks 3 hours after her announcement. She was alone, standing before a massive window that looked out at the stars. The council station orbited a binary star system, and the twin suns cast strange shadows across her face. "May I join you?" he asked. Lisa nodded without turning around. "Of course, High Arbiter." The massive moved to stand beside her, his reflection joining hers in the transparent wall. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They simply watched the stars together. "I have been High Arbiter for 400 years, finally said. "In all that time, I have never seen anything like what happened today. Your species continues to surprise us. I imagine that is not always a pleasant experience." "No, it is not." He turned his massive head to look at her directly. "I need to understand, Ambassador. I need to know why. They are one of the most powerful military forces in the known galaxy. Their fleet numbers in the tens of thousands. Their technology has been refined over. and humanity has been spacefaring for less than 100 years. This war you have declared, it appears to be suicide." Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It was old technology, a printed image on paper, something humans rarely used anymore. She held it out for to see. The image showed a city in ruins. Buildings had been reduced to rubble. Smoke rose from fires that seemed to burn everywhere. In the foreground, a group of soldiers stood among the destruction, their faces exhausted but determined. "This is a city called Stalingrad," Lisa said. "The image was captured in the year 1943 by our calendar. That was about 300 years ago, long before we achieved." Studied the image with his 4 eyes. "What happened there?" "War happened. 2 of our nations fought over that city for 5 months. When it was over, nearly 2 million people had died. 2 million, high arbiter, in a single battle, for a single city." There was silent. "That was not even our largest conflict," Lisa continued. "The war that included the Battle of Stalingrad killed approximately 70 million humans in total, and that was not our first such war, or our last. We have been killing each other in organized conflicts since before we had written language. We have gotten very, very good at it." She put the photograph away and turned to face him fully. "When humanity joined the Council, we were desperate to leave that behind. We looked at your peaceful civilization, your ancient traditions of diplomacy and cooperation, and we saw everything we wanted to become. We hid our history. We downplayed our conflicts. We showed you only what we thought you wanted to see." "Why?" "Because we were ashamed." Lisa's voice was heavy with emotion. "Do you know what the other species call us? The clever children, the eager newcomers, the little ones who are so excited to learn. They pat us on the head and tell us we will understand things better when we are older, and we accepted that because we thought it was better than them knowing the truth." Moved to one of the observation deck's benches and lowered himself onto it carefully. The furniture creaked under his weight. "What is the truth, Ambassador Morgan?" Lisa sat down across from him. "The truth is that humanity has spent its entire existence at war. We have developed weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We built thousands of them and pointed them at each other. For decades, we lived with the knowledge that at any moment someone could push a button and end our species forever. And somehow we survived. Not through wisdom or enlightenment, just through sheer, stubborn refusal to die. This is difficult to accept. In the Council, you have always seemed so peaceful, so reasonable." "Because we were trying to be better." Lisa leaned forward. "Every human alive today was raised with the stories of our past. We learn about the wars, the genocides, the atrocities. We learn about what we did to each other, and we swear we will never repeat it. For 40 years, we kept that promise. We resolved every dispute through negotiation. We walked away from every insult and every slight. We let other species treat us like children, because we were terrified of what would happen if we let ourselves become what we used to be. And now they have forced our hand." Lisa's expression hardened. "They killed our people, civilians, children, and they did it because they thought we were weak. They thought we would back down. They thought wrong." Was quiet for a long time. His ancient mind processed what he had heard, comparing it to everything he knew about humanity. The pieces did not quite fit together, but he was beginning to see the shape of something he had never noticed before. "The weapons you have shown us," he said slowly. "The ships, the technology, are they real?" "They are real, but they are not our best." "What do you mean?" Lisa stood and walked back to the window. "When we joined the Council, we were required to share our military capabilities. It is standard procedure for new members. We submitted complete documentation of our fleet strength, our weapons systems, our tactical doctrines." "Yes, I have seen those reports." "They were lies." She turned to face him. "Everything we showed you was designed to make us look exactly as weak as you expected us to be. Our real technology is hidden. Our real weapons have never been used outside of testing ranges deep in human space. Our real fleet is 3 times the size of what we reported. Felt something he had not experienced in centuries, genuine surprise. You deceived the Council. We protected ourselves. The universe is dangerous, High Arbiter. We learned that lesson long before we reached the stars. Every human child knows that you never show your full strength until you have no other choice. You keep your best weapons hidden. You let your enemies underestimate you. And when they finally push too far, you show them exactly how wrong they were. This is not how civilized species behave. No, Lisa agreed. It is how survivors behave. It is how a species that has nearly destroyed itself a dozen times over learns to stay alive. We hoped we would never have to use what we have built. We hoped that peace would last forever. But hope is not a strategy. She walked toward the door, then paused and looked back at him. They believe they are going to crush us easily. They believe this war will be over in days. They are wrong, High Arbiter. This war will be over in days, but not the way they expect. I only hope that when it is finished, the rest of the Council will understand why we did what we had to do. Watched her leave. For a long time afterward, he sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars and thinking about everything she had said. He had lived for nearly 1,000 years. He had seen countless species rise and fall. He had believed he understood the patterns of galactic civilization. But humanity was something new, something old, something that did not fit any pattern he had ever known. And for the first time in centuries, the High Arbiter of the Galactic Council was afraid. Supreme Commander stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Unbreakable Will, and watched the tactical display with satisfaction. His fleet had assembled in the home system, over 2,000 warships arranged in perfect formation. Each vessel was a masterpiece of military engineering, designed and refined over 3,000 years of spacefaring civilization. "Status report," he commanded. His second-in-command, Fleet Captain N, stepped forward with a data tablet. "All ships report ready, Supreme Commander. Weapons charged, shields at maximum, crews at battle stations. We can depart for the Epsilon Reach within the hour." Excellent turned to face his senior officers. "What do we know about the human fleet?" "Our intelligence is comprehensive," and pulled up a series of images on the main display. "The humans possess approximately 300 combat-capable vessels. Their largest ships are classified as heavy cruisers, but they are roughly equivalent to our light destroyers in terms of firepower and protection. Their weapons are plasma-based, one full generation behind our own technology. Their shields are adequate but not exceptional. And their crews? Inexperienced. Humanity has never fought a war in space. Their training simulations are primitive compared to our live-fire exercises. Their officers have never commanded ships in actual combat." And allowed himself a thin smile. "They are children playing at being warriors." Nodded slowly. This matched everything he had expected. The humans were a young species, barely out of their cradle world. They had achieved through luck and determination rather than true advancement. Their declaration of war was the desperate act of a people who did not understand what they were facing. "What of their ground forces?" he asked. "Minimal. Their soldiers use projectile weapons and simple body armor. Our warriors would cut through them like water through sand." "Their industrial capacity?" "Limited. Earth has significant manufacturing capability, but their colonies are too small and too new to contribute meaningfully to a war effort. If we destroy their fleet and blockade there, they will be forced to surrender within months." Walked to the window of his command deck and looked out at his assembled fleet. They had been warriors since before most council species had learned to use tools. They had conquered and held 12 star systems through strength of arms. They understood war in ways that peaceful civilizations could never comprehend. And now these humans thought they could challenge them. "There is one thing I do not understand," said quietly. The humans must know they cannot win. Their ambassador Morgan is not stupid. She would have access to the same intelligence we have. She would know the size of our fleet and the power of our weapons. Why would she declare a war she cannot possibly win? And considered the question. Perhaps they hope for intervention from the Council. If they can survive long enough, the other species might pressure us to accept a ceasefire. Perhaps, but was not convinced. He had seen Morgan's eyes when she made her declaration. There had been no desperation there, no fear. She had looked like someone who knew exactly what was coming. He pushed the thought aside. Whatever the humans were planning, it would not matter. They simply did not have the capability to threaten the fleet. All the determination in the galaxy could not overcome a 7-to-1 disadvantage in numbers and a significant gap in technology. "Prepare the fleet for departure," he ordered. "We will crush their forces in the Epsilon Reach, then proceed to Earth itself. I want this war finished within a standard week." Meanwhile, in a completely different part of the galaxy, Captain Danny sat in the command chair of his ship and reviewed the latest tactical updates. The vessel was officially designated as a light cruiser in all Council databases. Its name, the Defiant, was painted on the hull in standard letters that any species could read. What was not visible was the truth about the ship. The Defiant was one of 30 vessels in a class that had never been revealed to any non-human. Its hull was reinforced with materials developed in secret facilities on Earth's moon. Its engines could produce 3 times the thrust that Council engineers believed possible for a ship its size. Its shields used principles that human scientists had discovered and kept hidden for 2 decades. And its weapons were something entirely new. "Captain, message from Fleet Command," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sandra Cole. "Admiral Cole has confirmed the operational plan. All ships are to proceed to Assembly Point 7 and await further orders." Danny nodded. He had known this day would come eventually. Every officer in the United Earth Fleet had trained for it, prepared for it, hoped it would never arrive. But now it was here, and they would do what they had always been prepared to do. "Navigation, plot a course for Assembly Point 7, best speed." His first officer, Commander Maria Santos, moved to stand beside his chair. "The crew is ready, sir. Morale is high. They know what is at stake." "Good." Danny looked around his bridge at the men and women who served under him. They were all volunteers, every one of them. The United Earth Fleet did not force anyone to serve in combat roles. You had to choose it, knowing full well what it might cost. "Sir," Maria said quietly, "do you think the intelligence reports are accurate about the fleet?" "I think they believe they are accurate," Danny replied, "and that is what matters." "You think they are underestimating us?" "I know they are." He leaned back in his chair. "For 40 years, we have been showing the galaxy exactly what they expected to see. Primitive technology, inferior weapons, eager, harmless newcomers who just want to learn from their betters. Every piece of information they have about us was carefully designed to make them think we are weak." Maria was silent for a moment. And if they had not attacked the colonies, if they had agreed to negotiate, then the secret would have stayed secret. We would have continued playing our role, continued being the clever children, continued hoping that we would never have to show anyone who we really are. Danny's expression hardened. "But they did attack. They killed our people, and now they will learn the truth." The Defiant jumped to faster-than-light speed, joining the flow of human ships converging on the assembly point. From all across human space they came, not 300 vessels but nearly 1,000. Ships that had been hidden in underground facilities and remote asteroids. Ships that the Council did not know existed. Ships carrying weapons that had never been used in anger. And commanding them all was Admiral Cole, a man who had spent his entire career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. He stood in the command center of the Earth vessel Relentless and watched the fleet assemble on his tactical display. "Sir, all units have reported in," said his aide. We are at full strength. Nodded slowly. Open a channel to all ships. Channel open, sir. He took a deep breath. This is Admiral Cole. By now, you have all seen the reports from the Council. They believe they are coming to fight 300 outdated vessels crewed by inexperienced officers. They believe this war will be over in days. He paused, letting his words sink in. They are right about one thing. This war will be over in days, but not the way they expect. For 40 years, humanity has hidden its true strength. Today, we reveal it. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate the people of Earth. His voice grew harder. We did not want this war. We hoped for peace. But peace was taken from us when they murdered our families. Now there is only one option left. We will defeat them. We will protect our people. And when this is over, no one in this galaxy will ever make the mistake of thinking humanity is weak again. He straightened in his chair. All ships prepare for battle. We jump in 3 hours. The fleet acknowledged his orders with quiet efficiency. 900 warships, carrying the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created, prepared to meet an enemy that had no idea what was coming. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 2,000 warships, arranged in the classic crescent pattern that their military had used for centuries. The design was elegant in its simplicity. The curved arms would sweep around any enemy force, enveloping them and destroying them with concentrated fire from multiple angles. Supreme Commander stood at the center of his command deck, watching the tactical display with the calm confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. The Epsilon Reach system stretched out before him, 7 planets orbiting a yellow star. The human colony was on the 4th planet, a world they called New Providence. Soon, it would be territory again. Begin scanning for enemy vessels, he ordered. Yes, Supreme Commander. The sensor operator bent over his console. Seconds passed, then minutes. The operator's expression shifted from concentration to confusion. Reports demanded. Sir, I am detecting human ships, but the readings do not match our intelligence. The operator worked his controls frantically. There are far more vessels than expected, and their energy signatures are wrong, much higher than they should be. How many ships? Still counting, sir. At least 800, possibly more. Felt a cold sensation in his stomach that he did not recognize. That is impossible. Our intelligence clearly showed 300 vessels at maximum. I am telling you what the sensors show, Supreme Commander. There are at least 800 human warships in this system, and they are moving to intercept us. On the main display, the human fleet appeared as a cloud of blue dots against the darkness of space. They were not forming any defensive pattern that recognized. Instead, they were accelerating directly toward the formation, spreading out into a broad line. They cannot be serious, Fleet Captain said. A direct assault against a superior force, that is suicide. Signal all ships to prepare for combat, ordered. Let them come. We still outnumber them and our weapons are superior. We will destroy them in detail. The two fleets closed on each other at incredible speed. The humans were accelerating faster than should have been possible for ships their size, but put it down to desperation. They were throwing everything they had into one attack, hopping to somehow break through the line before they were destroyed. It was brave, it was also foolish. Weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced. All ships fire on my command, said. The human fleet reached weapons range, and then everything went wrong. The first salvo from the human ships was not plasma fire. Instead, something else streaked across the space between the fleets. The sensors barely had time to register the projectiles before they struck. The forward destroyer crushing fist simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a powerful warship with a crew of 400. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of debris. There had been no warning, no shield flare, nothing. What was that? And shouted. Before anyone could answer, more projectiles slammed into the formation. Ship after ship was torn apart by weapons that passed through their shields as if they did not exist. In the first 10 seconds of battle, the lost 15 vessels. "Return fire," commanded. "All ships return fire now." The fleet responded with everything they had. Plasma cannons that had destroyed countless enemies in the past unleashed their fury at the human ships. Beams of superheated matter crossed the void, striking the human vessels with power that should have vaporized them. The human ships barely noticed. Their shields absorbed the plasma fire with ease, glowing briefly, and then returning to full strength. The technology that they believed was a generation behind their own was actually 2 generations ahead. Human engineers had solved problems that scientists had struggled with for centuries. "Their shields are holding," the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. "Our weapons are not penetrating." "Impossible. Increase power to the main batteries." "We are at maximum power, Supreme Commander. It is not making a difference." On the tactical display, the human fleet continued its advance. They were not slowing down. They were not breaking formation. They were simply driving forward through the fire, ignoring it completely, while their own weapons tore massive holes in the defensive crescent. Captain Danny gripped the arms of his command chair as the Defiant shuddered under another plasma strike. The shields held easily, just as the engineers had promised. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, targeting enemy vessels and firing the main guns with devastating accuracy. "Target destroyed," Lieutenant Park reported from the weapons station. "Moving to next target, enemy cruiser bearing 274. Fire when ready." The Defiant's main guns were rail cannons, a technology that humanity had been perfecting for over a century. They accelerated tungsten projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed using magnetic fields. The rounds carried no explosive charge. They did not need one. At the velocities they traveled, the kinetic energy alone was enough to punch through any shield and tear any ship apart. They had nothing like them. Their weapons were based on plasma and energy, the standard technologies used by every spacefaring species. They had never imagined that something as simple as throwing rocks very fast could be so devastating. "Enemy casualties are mounting," Commander Maria Santos reported. "Current count is over 300 vessels destroyed. We have lost 11. Danny nodded grimly. The exchange rate was exactly what Fleet Command had predicted. Human ships were faster, tougher, and carried weapons that they could not counter. The battle was not a fight. It was a massacre. Supreme Commander watched his fleet die and felt something he had never experienced in his military career: complete, total defeat. His beautiful crescent formation had been shattered. His mighty warships were being destroyed faster than he could count, and the humans just kept coming. "Supreme Commander, we must retreat," and urged. "We are losing hundreds of ships. If we stay here, we will be completely destroyed." "How?" demanded. "How is this possible? They were supposed to be weak. Their technology was supposed to be inferior. Everything we knew about them said they could not do this." "I do not know, sir. But if we do not retreat now, there will be no one left to ask the question." Looked at the tactical display one more time. The fleet that had been 2,000 ships strong was now less than 1,000. Human losses were minimal. In less than an hour, the most powerful military force in history had been cut in half. "All ships," he said, his voice hollow. "All ships retreat, fall back to the home system." The surviving vessels turned and ran. Their engines flared as they pushed for faster-than-light speed, desperate to escape the nightmare that the humans had become. But the humans did not let them go easily. "They are retreating," Maria Santos said. "Should we pursue?" "Yes," Danny replied without hesitation. "Admiral Cole's orders are clear. We do not stop until they surrender or there is nothing left of their fleet. Continue pursuit." The human ships accelerated after the fleeing, their engines pushing them to speeds that should have been impossible. They caught the slower vessels and destroyed them. They harried the flanks of the retreat, picking off ships one by one. They showed no mercy because mercy was not what they had shown to the colonists of New Providence. By the time the surviving ships finally escaped into faster-than-light travel, they had lost over 1,200 vessels. Human losses stood at 37. In less than 2 hours, humanity had won its first interstellar battle, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news of the Battle of Epsilon Reach spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. Within hours, every species in the Council had heard what had happened. The mighty fleet, 2,000 of the most powerful warships in the known galaxy, had been shattered by a force less than half its size. 1,200 vessels destroyed, 37 human ships lost. The numbers did not seem real. They could not be real. Nothing in the history of galactic civilization had ever been so one-sided. High Arbiter convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The chamber that had witnessed Lisa Morgan's declaration of war just 4 days earlier now filled with delegates who looked at the human section with entirely new eyes. The contempt and amusement were gone. In their place was something that the elder races had not felt toward a younger species in. Fear. Ambassador Lisa Morgan entered the chamber with Admiral Cole at her side. The Admiral wore his formal uniform, decorated with the simple insignia of the United Earth Fleet. He looked tired. The last 4 days had been exhausting, but his eyes were clear and his posture straight. The Council recognizes the delegation from the United Earth Government, High Arbiter announced. His voice lacked its usual authority. Like everyone else in the chamber, he was still struggling to process what had happened. Lisa stepped to the podium. Honored delegates, I stand before you with news. 2 hours ago, Supreme Commander of the Collective transmitted a message to the United Earth Government. The message contains an unconditional acceptance of all our terms. She pressed a control on the podium, and a holographic display appeared showing the text of the surrender. It was brief and formal, stating that the Collective would immediately withdraw from the Epsilon Reach, pay full reparations to the families of those killed in the initial attack, and submit to Council arbitration for all future disputes with humanity. The war is over, Lisa said simply. They have surrendered. Delegate of the Crystalline Accord rose slowly. Her silicon body hummed with frequencies that translated as deep uncertainty. Ambassador Morgan, the Council requires an explanation. How did your species achieve this? Your capabilities were assessed according to standard protocols. Everything we knew about humanity suggested that a conflict with them would be heavily one-sided in their favor. Lisa glanced at Admiral Cole, who stepped forward to address the assembly. Honored delegates, he began, for 40 years humanity has been a member of this council. During that time, we have followed every rule, participated in every program, and shared our technology as required by our membership obligations. What we shared was true. It was also incomplete. He let that statement hang in the air before continuing. When humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel, we were hopeful about what we would find among the stars. We imagined peaceful civilizations, advanced beyond the conflicts that had plagued our history. We dreamed of being welcomed into a community of enlightened species who had left war behind. Paused, and in many ways we found exactly that. The Galactic Council was everything we had hoped for: peaceful, cooperative, orderly. We desperately wanted to be part of it. We wanted to leave our violent past behind and become the kind of civilization that deserved to stand among you. But we are also survivors, he continued. And survivors know that hope is not enough. We hoped for peace, but we prepared for war. In secret facilities hidden throughout human space, our scientists and engineers developed weapons and technologies that we never revealed to anyone. We built ships that we never showed to council inspectors. We trained soldiers and sailors who never appeared in any official records. High Arbiter leaned forward. You deceived the Council. We protected our people. Admiral Cole met his gaze without flinching. With respect, High Arbiter, the Council has maintained peace for thousands of years. That is admirable, but it has also left you unprepared for what happens when peace fails. They understood this. They saw the Council's peaceful nature as weakness. They believed they could take what they wanted because no one would stop them. And they were wrong, Lisa added. Because while the Council may have forgotten what war means, humanity has not. We know it in our bones. We have been fighting each other for our entire existence. Every weapon we used against the was originally developed by humans to kill other humans. Every tactic, every strategy, every innovation came from conflict. Admiral Cole pulled up a new display showing images from human history. Battles fought with swords and shields, trenches stretching across muddy fields, mushroom clouds rising over devastated cities, soldiers in every kind of uniform from every era, all engaged in the same ancient activity. This is who we are, he said. This is what we have been trying to escape since we first reached the stars. We joined the Council hopping to become something better. We showed you only our peaceful side because we were ashamed of everything else. We wanted so badly to leave our past behind. He turned off the display. But when they attacked our colonies, when they killed our people, we had no choice but to remember. And now you have seen what humanity is capable of when we stop pretending to be something we are not. The chamber was absolutely silent. Every delegate, every aide, every observer sat frozen in their seats, trying to absorb what they had heard. Finally, Ambassador Al of the Hive Consortium spoke. What happens now? Does humanity intend to conquer other species, to use your hidden power to dominate the Council? Lisa shook her head. No, our war was with and it is now over. We have no desire to fight anyone else. We do not want to conquer or dominate. We only want what we have always wanted, peace, safety for our people, a place among the stars where we can continue trying to become better than we have been. But understand this, Admiral Cole added. The secret is out. Every species in this galaxy now knows what humanity can do. We will not hide our true capabilities any longer. If anyone threatens our people, if anyone attacks our colonies, if anyone tries to take from us what is rightfully ours, they will face the full power of the United Earth Fleet. He looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. We did not want this. We hoped it would never come to this, but it has. And now the choice is yours. You can fear us. You can hate us. You can try to form alliances against us. Or you can accept us as we truly are, a species that has spent its entire existence fighting for survival, that has learned war more thoroughly than any civilization should ever have to, and that wants nothing more than to finally, permanently, put that knowledge aside. Lisa stepped forward one final time. Humanity offers the galaxy a choice. We can be your allies, your partners in building a future where no one ever has to fight again. We can share our knowledge, work together on the problems that face all species, and help create the peaceful civilization that we all want. Her voice hardened slightly. Or we can be your enemies. And if the last 4 days have taught the galaxy anything, it should be that no one wants humanity as an enemy. She and Admiral Cole stepped away from the podium and returned to their seats. The chamber remained silent for a long time. Finally, High Arbiter rose. The Council will take the human statements under advisement. This session is adjourned. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Lisa Morgan sat quietly in her seat and watched them go. Some looked at her with fear, some with anger, some with what might have been respect. She understood all of those reactions. She felt them herself. Humanity had revealed its true nature to the galaxy. The clever children, the eager newcomers, the harmless little species that everyone had patronized for 40 years had shown themselves to be something far more dangerous. They were the survivors of their own violence, the inheritors of a legacy of war that stretched back to the dawn of their species. And now the galaxy knew. Lisa closed her eyes and allowed herself a moment of grief. The peaceful future she had dreamed of was gone. There would be no more pretending, no more hiding, no more hoping that humanity could simply become something different than what it was. But perhaps there was something better waiting. Perhaps now, with the truth finally out, humanity could begin to truly join the galactic community. Not as the species everyone underestimated, not as the clever children trying to hide their violent past, but as equals, as allies, as the survivors who had looked into the darkness of their own nature and somehow found a way to keep moving forward. It would not be easy, nothing worthwhile ever was. But if there was one thing humanity had proven, over and over again throughout its long and bloody history, it was this: they would never stop fighting for a better future. No matter what it cost.